Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are back in the spotlight, but not for a touchdown celebration, not for a surprise lyric drop, and not for a viral courtside moment. This time, the attention is sharper, quieter, and far more loaded. Reports are circulating that their wedding plans have slowed down. And with just that single phrase, the internet hit pause. Before you scroll away, stay with this story until the end and drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a red flag or a sign of something deeper? From the outside, everything still looks flawless. Taylor Swift remains one of the most powerful figures in global music, a cultural force whose every move reshapes the industry. Travis Kelce, on the other hand, continues to stand tall as one of the NFL's most recognizable and accomplished stars. Success surrounds them, fame follows them, yet behind that glossy surface, a different narrative has begun to form, one built not on spectacle, but on hesitation. Sources close to the situation suggest this isn't about love fading or conflict boiling over. In fact, the opposite is being whispered. Their relationship is said to be more serious than ever. But seriousness brings weight, and weight brings questions that can't be answered with romance alone. When two people at the absolute peak of their respective worlds try to align their futures, timing suddenly becomes everything. In recent months, Travis Kelce has reportedly found himself at a major crossroads. The future of his NFL career is no longer a distant thought. It's a present consideration. Each season now carries more than just wins and losses. It carries physical tolls, long-term commitments, and life-after-football decisions. At the same time, Taylor Swift is immersed in an intensely demanding creative phase. New projects, business expansions, and total ownership of her artistic legacy require laser focus. When these pressures collide, a milestone like marriage naturally moves from the fast lane into careful review. This reported slowdown has triggered a wave of reactions. Some fans express disappointment, others worry, but a growing number see something else entirely: maturity. For once, the narrative surrounding a celebrity couple isn't about rushing toward a fairy tale ending. It's about two people choosing realism over performance. And perhaps most telling of all, neither Taylor nor Travis has rushed to explain themselves. That silence has only intensified curiosity. Observers have begun noticing subtle shifts. Taylor Swift appears more selective about public appearances. Travis Kelce has slightly stepped back from the non-stop media spotlight. It feels intentional, almost coordinated, as if both are quietly protecting something fragile from the noise outside. And when figures of this magnitude choose restraint, it sends a louder message than any headline ever could. Midway through all the speculation, one question keeps resurfacing. Is this just a pause or a pivot? Are they recalibrating for the long term or quietly acknowledging the weight of expectations placed on them? No definitive answers have emerged, but one thing is becoming clear. This relationship is not being packaged for easy consumption. There are no dramatic statements, no public timelines, no promises made for applause. And here's where the story takes a turn. Because while wedding rumors slow down, another detail moves in the opposite direction. Reports indicate that both families are growing closer. Private gatherings, consistent support, quiet signs of long-term stability that rarely make headlines. This doesn't look like a relationship unraveling. It looks like one being pressure-tested. Media speculation, however, hasn't slowed. Some outlets hint at trouble. Others jump straight to predictions of a breakup. But so far, none of that noise is backed by concrete evidence. What is visible is adjustment. Adjustment to time, to expectations, to the reality that not all strong relationships move at the pace the public demands. And this is where the tension peaks. In a world addicted to instant updates and dramatic conclusions, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce appear to be choosing patience. The reported delay may not signal uncertainty. It may signal intention, a refusal to let external pressure dictate personal milestones. A reminder that not every love story needs to accelerate to prove its authenticity. That's the payoff many aren't ready to consider. That slowing down doesn't always mean something is wrong. Sometimes it means something matters enough to protect. Sometimes it means building a foundation quietly, away from flashing cameras and trending hashtags. So now the conversation turns to you. Do you see this as a smart, grounded decision, or the first warning sign of deeper issues? Share your take in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of the headlines, dig deeper than surface-level rumors, and follow how this story truly unfolds, make sure you stay connected. Because this chapter isn't over, and the next move may say more than any announcement ever could. And the reason this story refuses to fade is simple. It sits at the intersection of fame, timing, and expectation. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are not just a couple. They are symbols. Symbols of two massive industries colliding. Symbols of success at its peak. And symbols of how difficult it is to make personal decisions when the entire world feels entitled to an opinion. Behind the scenes, insiders suggest that conversations between the two have become deeper, not colder. Less about when and more about how. How do you build a life when one partner's calendar is booked years in advance and the other's career runs on seasons that could end in an instant? How do you protect intimacy when every step is tracked, dissected, and monetized by the media ecosystem? These aren't romantic questions, but they are real ones. What makes this slowdown so compelling is how out of character it feels for celebrity culture. Usually, delays are framed as trouble. Silence is framed as avoidance. But in this case, the absence of chaos is what stands out. No unfollowing, no cryptic posts, no sudden narrative shift, just continuity. And continuity, in a world addicted to spectacle, is quietly powerful. There's also a larger context many are missing. Taylor Swift has spent years reclaiming control over her music, her image, and her story. Every move she makes now is deliberate. Rushed decisions no longer fit the pattern. Travis Kelce, meanwhile, is approaching a phase of life where legacy matters more than momentum. Championships are no longer just about trophies. They're about what comes after the final whistle. When two people reach these moments simultaneously, slowing down isn't avoidance, it's alignment. Yet public pressure keeps building. Headlines speculate. Comment sections divide. Some demand clarity. Others demand conclusions. But clarity doesn't always come on demand, and real relationships don't follow release schedules. What's happening here may be less about delay and more about recalibration. A moment to breathe before making a decision that can't be undone. And then there's the emotional layer, the one rarely discussed. Being constantly observed changes behavior. It amplifies doubt. It turns private conversations into public narratives before they're even finished. Choosing to pause under that microscope requires confidence, not fear. It requires two people trusting their own timeline more than the noise surrounding them. This is where many stories would rush toward drama. But this one resists it. There is no explosive twist, no leaked argument, no sudden disappearance. Instead, there is steadiness. And that steadiness may be the most revealing detail of all. Because relationships that are fragile often crack loudly. Strong ones adjust quietly. As the speculation continues, one thing remains undeniable. Whatever Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce decide next will be on their terms. Not because they owe explanations, but because they've earned the right to choose differently. To slow down in a culture that only understands acceleration. To value substance over speed. And maybe that's the real story hiding beneath the headline. Not a wedding delayed, but a narrative rewritten. One where commitment isn't measured by how fast you move, but by how carefully you choose. One where love isn't performed for validation, but protected through intention. So as the world waits for announcements, dates, or declarations, it's worth considering this. The quiet moments often matter more than the loud ones. And right now, the quiet surrounding Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce speaks volumes. If this chapter feels unfinished, that's because it is. The tension hasn't resolved, it's evolving. And when the payoff finally comes, whether in the form of celebration or confirmation, it won't feel rushed. It will feel earned. Until then, the slowdown remains not as a question mark, but as a mirror, reflecting how we interpret love, success, and patience in an era that rarely allows any of them to exist without commentary. And as days turn into weeks, the conversation around Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce continues to stretch far beyond gossip columns. Analysts, fans, and cultural commentators alike are now dissecting this moment as something bigger than a celebrity relationship update. It's being framed as a case study in modern fame, how two people can be deeply committed to each other while resisting the pressure to perform that commitment on demand. What's especially striking is how controlled the narrative has become by what isn't happening. There are no rushed public appearances designed to quiet rumors. No carefully worded interviews meant to set the record straight. Instead, there's a deliberate absence of reassurance, and that absence is unsettling to a public conditioned to constant access. The slowdown itself becomes the headline because it defies expectation. Industry insiders point out that this moment aligns with a broader shift in how high-profile figures manage their private lives. Oversharing has lost its power. Mystery has regained value. And for someone like Taylor Swift, who once turned emotional transparency into an art form, the choice to keep this chapter restrained feels intentional. It suggests evolution, not withdrawal. Meanwhile, Travis Kelce's position adds another layer of complexity. Professional athletes nearing pivotal career transitions often face identity-defining choices. Retirement, reinvention, media ventures, long-term health. These considerations don't fit neatly into romantic timelines. Those close to him suggest that this phase has prompted reflection, not hesitation. Reflection about balance, about permanence, about what kind of life he wants when the stadium lights eventually dim. When viewed through that lens, the reported delay in wedding plans begins to look less like a problem and more like a negotiation with reality. Big decisions don't always arrive with excitement. Sometimes they arrive with silence, long conversations, and uncomfortable honesty. And that process rarely photographs well. Public reaction, however, remains split. Some fans cling to optimism, interpreting the slowdown as proof of depth and intention. Others remain uneasy, conditioned by years of celebrity breakups that began with similar headlines. The difference here lies in consistency. The tone hasn't shifted. The behavior hasn't changed. Only the pace has. And pace matters. In a culture obsessed with immediacy, slowing down can feel like rebellion. It challenges the idea that love must constantly escalate to remain valid. It questions whether milestones need to be announced to be real. And it exposes how much of modern romance, especially at the celebrity level, has become performative. What's unfolding now feels closer to a recalibration than a retreat. A moment where two individuals reassess not just their relationship, but how that relationship fits into lives already defined by extraordinary pressure. Fame doesn't pause for love. Careers don't soften for romance. Something always has to give or adapt. As speculation continues, one detail remains consistent across credible reports: communication. There is no indication of distance, conflict, or disengagement between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. On the contrary, those familiar with the situation describe an ongoing dialogue marked by clarity and mutual respect. That may be the least dramatic detail, but it's arguably the most important one. Because drama thrives in uncertainty, not understanding. And right now, uncertainty exists only for the audience, not for the people actually living the story. This is where expectations collide with reality. The public often treats celebrity relationships like narratives with required beats. Meet, fall, commit, celebrate. Any deviation is labeled a problem. But real relationships don't follow scripts. They follow circumstances. And circumstances change, especially when both people are operating at the highest levels of their fields. As the noise grows louder, the decision to remain steady becomes more visible. Every day without clarification reinforces the same message. Nothing is being rushed, and nothing is being forced. The lack of spectacle becomes the signal. There's also a quieter emotional truth beneath all of this. Protecting something meaningful sometimes requires disappointing outside expectations. It requires choosing long-term stability over short-term approval. And for figures whose lives are built on public validation, that choice is anything but easy. The irony is that this slowdown may ultimately strengthen the very thing people fear is weakening. Time allows alignment, space allows intention, and patience allows decisions to be made without regret. If and when the next chapter is revealed, it won't be because pressure demanded it, but because readiness allowed it. Until that moment arrives, the story remains suspended in a rare state of unresolved tension, not broken, not concluded, simply unfolding at its own pace. And perhaps that's the most honest ending available right now. Not a declaration, not a denial, just two people navigating complexity while the world watches, and learning in real time that sometimes the strongest move is to slow down when everyone else expects you to hurry. As the narrative stretches on, what becomes increasingly clear is that this moment is less about a delayed ceremony and more about a deliberate recalibration of life priorities. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are operating in a space few people ever experience, where personal choices ripple outward into headlines, market reactions, and cultural debate. In that environment, slowing down isn't passive, it's active resistance. There's a psychological toll that comes with being constantly anticipated. Every move expected, every milestone pre-written by strangers. When engagement rumors first surfaced, they came packaged with timelines, predictions, even imagined guest lists. The relationship stopped being just theirs and became a collective projection. And stepping back from that momentum may have been the only way to reclaim ownership of the decision itself. Those familiar with high-profile partnerships note that the most dangerous phase isn't conflict, it's convergence. When two successful lives attempt to merge, the friction doesn't come from disagreement, but from logistics, identity, and sacrifice. Whose schedule bends? Whose momentum pauses? Whose life changes more? These are not questions love alone can answer. They require time, honesty, and space to think without applause or backlash. Taylor Swift's trajectory in recent years has been marked by strategic patience. From re-recordings to business expansions, she has shown a pattern of waiting until conditions are right, not merely acceptable. Applying that same philosophy to her personal life would be consistent, not surprising. Travis Kelce, likewise, has reached a stage where decisions echo longer than seasons. What he chooses now shapes the decade ahead, not just the next year. The public, however, struggles with ambiguity. Silence invites speculation, and speculation often fills gaps with fear. But ambiguity can also be a form of truth. It acknowledges that some stories don't have neat updates, that some chapters require living through before being explained, and that not every meaningful process needs to be translated into content. What's fascinating is how this pause has reframed the couple's image. Instead of a whirlwind romance racing toward a spectacle, they now appear grounded, intentional, and unusually private for figures of their scale. That shift alone challenges the expectations placed on celebrity relationships. It suggests that longevity may require resisting the very visibility that created the fascination in the first place. Observers also point out that relationships under intense scrutiny often collapse loudly. There are warning signs: sudden changes in tone, performative affection, defensive statements. None of those are present here. The absence of volatility may be the strongest indicator of stability. Quiet doesn't always mean fragile. Sometimes it means contained. As weeks pass without definitive updates, the narrative naturally stretches. Attention drifts, then snaps back with each new rumor. Yet the core facts remain unchanged. There is no confirmation of conflict, no indication of separation, only a reported slowdown, interpreted through countless lenses. And perhaps that's the real tension, the gap between what is known and what is assumed. This moment also exposes a broader cultural impatience. We are conditioned to expect constant progress, visible markers, public proof. When progress becomes internal instead of external, it's treated as stagnation. But real alignment often happens away from timelines and announcements. It happens in conversations no one sees and decisions no one applauds. For Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, choosing that path means accepting misunderstanding. It means allowing narratives they can't control. But it also means protecting the core of what they're building. And protection, in this context, may be the most meaningful form of commitment. As the story continues to unfold without resolution, it becomes less about anticipation and more about observation. Watching how two high-profile individuals navigate pressure without collapsing into spectacle offers its own kind of payoff. It reframes love not as momentum, but as endurance. When the next chapter eventually arrives, whatever form it takes, it will likely feel quieter than expected. No dramatic pivot, no rushed justification, just a step taken when it makes sense for them, not when the world demands it. Until then, the slowdown remains exactly what it appears to be. Not an ending, not a warning, but a pause filled with intention. And in a culture that equates speed with success, that pause may be the boldest statement of all. As the silence stretches further, it begins to reshape how this story is understood. What once felt like a sudden slowdown now reads more like a long breath, a necessary pause taken by two people who understand the cost of moving too fast under the weight of global attention. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are not disappearing from each other's lives. They are recalibrating how much of that life is exposed. One of the least discussed pressures in situations like this is permanence. Marriage, at this level of visibility, is not just a personal commitment, it becomes a public institution. Every disagreement, every scheduling conflict, every normal human adjustment risks becoming content. Slowing down, then, may be the only way to ensure that the commitment remains human before it becomes historical. Those close to the entertainment industry quietly acknowledge that Taylor Swift has reached a point where she no longer needs to prove anything, commercially, creatively, or culturally. That freedom changes decision-making. Choices are no longer about momentum but meaning, and meaning takes time. Rushing into a milestone simply because the world expects it would contradict the very control she has fought years to reclaim. Travis Kelce's position mirrors this in a different way. Athletes approaching career inflection points often face a narrowing window for life-altering decisions. The body changes, priorities shift. The question is no longer how much can be achieved, but how much can be sustained. Building a future during that transition requires patience, not spectacle. What's unfolding now may be the most grounded phase of their relationship, and paradoxically, the hardest for the public to interpret. There is no dramatic storyline to follow, no clear emotional cue to react to, just continuity, and continuity doesn't trend easily. The lack of confirmation has led to endless interpretation. Some see strategy, others see uncertainty, but strategy and uncertainty are not mutually exclusive. It's possible to be deeply committed and still unsure about timing. It's possible to love someone and still need space to align lives that were never designed to move in sync. This is where the narrative quietly challenges the audience. It asks whether love must always accelerate to be valid, whether commitment must be loud to be real, and whether slowing down automatically signals doubt or simply respect for the magnitude of the decision ahead. Every high-profile relationship eventually reaches a moment where external momentum must either be obeyed or resisted. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce appear to be resisting. Not defiantly, not dramatically, but firmly. And resistance, when done quietly, is often misunderstood as weakness. In reality, it can be discipline. The tension remains unresolved, and that unresolved state is what keeps attention locked in. There is no payoff yet, only accumulation. Each day without news adds weight to the eventual outcome. And that outcome, whatever it is, will land harder precisely because it wasn't rushed. Until then, the story continues in fragments. In what isn't said, in what doesn't change, in the absence of crisis where one was expected. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the narrative shifts from disappointment to contemplation. This is no longer just a story about wedding plans slowing down. It's a story about autonomy in the face of expectation, about choosing depth over speed, about two people refusing to let their most personal decision be dictated by demand. And as the spotlight remains fixed, the quiet persists. Not empty, not uncertain, just intentional. And the longer this quiet period lasts, the more it reframes the meaning of commitment in the public eye. What once seemed like hesitation now begins to resemble deliberation. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are not pulling away from each other. They are pulling inward, away from the noise that demands constant proof of progress. In doing so, they are challenging a culture that confuses visibility with validity. There is also the question of legacy. Both Taylor and Travis are acutely aware that the decisions they make now will be referenced for years, even decades. A wedding, if and when it happens, will not simply be a personal celebration. It will be archived, analyzed, and mythologized. That kind of permanence changes how one approaches timing. Rushing into a moment that will live forever in public memory carries risks that few are willing to acknowledge. Cultural observers have begun to note that this slowdown mirrors a broader shift among high-profile figures. The era of constant access is losing its grip. Privacy, once seen as evasive, is being rebranded as intentional. In that context, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's approach feels less like an anomaly and more like a signal. A signal that even the most visible people in the world are learning to set boundaries. Another layer often overlooked is how different their worlds truly are. Music and sports may share fame and fandom, but their rhythms are incompatible. Tours are planned years ahead. Seasons unfold week by week. Injuries are unpredictable. Creative cycles are internal. Aligning those realities into a single shared timeline is not romantic. It's complex. And complexity does not resolve itself on schedule. What keeps the story alive is not evidence of trouble, but the absence of resolution. The public is waiting for a definitive turn. An announcement, a denial, a milestone. But life rarely provides such clean transitions. More often, it moves gradually, quietly, shaped by conversations that never leave the room they happen in. As speculation continues, it becomes clear that this moment is revealing more about the audience than the couple. The discomfort with waiting, the need for certainty, the assumption that slowing down must mean something is wrong. Yet patience has always been the least celebrated form of strength. Taylor Swift has built a career on storytelling, and one of the most powerful tools in storytelling is restraint. Knowing when not to reveal everything, knowing when to let tension breathe. Applied to her personal life, that same instinct suggests intention rather than confusion. Travis Kelce's steady public demeanor reinforces this reading. There is no visible disruption, no reactive behavior, no urgency to correct the narrative. This phase may not produce viral moments or dramatic headlines, but it is quietly redefining expectations. It suggests that commitment can exist without performance, that love can deepen without accelerating, that the most meaningful decisions are often the least visible. As time passes, the slowdown becomes less of a headline and more of a backdrop, something that simply is. And in that normalization, the tension subtly shifts. The question is no longer what's wrong, but what are they choosing? Eventually, that choice will surface. Whether it arrives as celebration, confirmation, or continuation, it will carry the weight of this pause. And when it does, it will feel deliberate, not reactive, considered, not rushed. Until that moment, the story remains suspended in an unusual place, calm under pressure. In an environment built on immediacy, that calm is almost radical. And perhaps that is the quiet truth at the center of it all, that slowing down for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce is not a loss of momentum, but a reclaiming of control.